Now in this video, I'm going to tell you a story, and if you're a communicator, which basically means if you're a human being, you're going to find this interesting. It's a story from about 15 years ago when, through my inexperience, I managed to waste a whole day of a good man's life. And this story all starts with a puzzle. You might know it. The puzzle goes like this.
Please listen carefully.
Romeo and Juliet are dead. They are lying on the floor in a bedroom. The floor is very wet, and Romeo and Juliet are surrounded by lots of pieces of broken glass. Above them, there's a shelf. There's no one in the house, and all the doors and windows are closed and locked. The house is next to a railway track. Can you explain what happened? Now, in order to solve this puzzle, you have to start to explore the mental image that you created here, the one in your mind's eye. Can you see it? The bedroom scene with Romeo and Juliet lying on the floor, the wet floor. Do you see the pieces of broken glass? Maybe the image that you're creating looks something like this. This is a rough sketch that I created myself. You can see that I'm not very good at drawing. But once you've created a mental image, you might then start to ask questions like, why is the floor wet? Where did these pieces of broken glass come from? And if you know the story of Romeo and Juliet, you might consider that maybe there was a bottle of poison involved. Maybe it fell off the shelf and smashed. The thing is, the story of Romeo and Juliet is not going to help you solve this puzzle because this is a different story. And if your mental image looked like this, then you've made an assumption about Romeo and Juliet. Let me explain what happened. There was a fishbowl on the shelf, but unfortunately the vibrations of a passing train caused the fishbowl to fall off the shelf and smash on the floor below. And as we all know, fish can't survive out of water, so Romeo and Juliet died. Romeo and Juliet are fish. Well, ex-fish. So here's the story. In 2008, I was writing a book for teachers. This book right here. It's a book of ideas and activities for teachers to use in the classroom. And one of the ideas that I wanted to include was based on the Romeo and Juliet puzzle. Now, this is the very first book I ever wrote, and my editor, who had a lot more experience than me, said, okay, we can include the Romeo and Juliet puzzle, but the words have to be accompanied by a picture. Something like this, but obviously something more professional than my rough sketch. Now, I was a bit confused by this, and I said to my editor, this is an activity which involves a mental image. It requires imagination. So why would we want to include a picture on the page? And she said, well, we have to make sure that the reader understands without any doubt at all that Romeo and Juliet are fish. And I remember thinking, meh. Why would there be any doubt? There's another activity in the book called Why Is There an Elephant in the Fridge? And this excellent illustration here was created by a friend of mine, an artist called Nicolas. Nicolas is from Tenerife in Spain. He'd already done this, and now it's time for me to ask Nicolas if he could create a second illustration, one to accompany the Romeo and Juliet puzzle. Let me show you our email correspondence. Monday the 25th of August 2008. Dear Nicolas, how are you? Thanks again for the excellent illustration of the elephant in the fridge. I know that you're a busy man, but I was wondering if you would have the time to do a second illustration for the book. Let me know what you think. No problem if you can't. Thanks, Jamie. Next day, I got a reply which said, Dear Jamie, it's good to hear from you. As long as you don't need the illustration immediately, I should be able to help. Let me know what you need and I'll see what I can do. All the best, Nicolas. Excellent! So, Nicolas agreed to do the second illustration for the book. Now, all I needed to do was explain to him what I needed. I had to send an email to provide instructions for this other illustration, the one to accompany the Romeo and Juliet puzzle. Hey Nicolas, thanks a lot for getting back to me. So, let me explain what I need. It's for part of an activity called Romeo and Juliet. And here is how it works. The activity starts with the following text.
Romeo and Juliet are dead. They're lying on the floor in a bedroom. The floor is very wet, and Romeo and Juliet are surrounded by lots of pieces of broken glass. Above them, there is a shelf. There is no one in the house, and all the doors and windows are closed and locked. The house is next to a railway track. Can you explain what happened?
Students have to work out what happened and explain why Romeo and Juliet are dead. The answer is that they are fish. My editor suggests that we accompany the text with an illustration of the bedroom scene. So the fishbowl has fallen off the shelf and has smashed on the floor. The fish are lying dead on the floor, surrounded by water and broken glass. You could also draw a window in the bedroom with a railway track outside. Please let me know if you have any questions. There's no hurry for this. Thanks again, Jamie. So I wonder what you think of that email. More importantly, did it do the job? Were my instructions clear enough for Nicolas? So about a week later, I received an email from Nicolas, and this one I'm going to read to you. Hi Jamie, here is the illustration attached. I have to admit that it's been a bit more complicated than the elephant in the fridge. The most difficult thing was making it clear that Romeo and Juliet are actually dead and not sleeping. In order to make it obvious, I've included a bottle of poison beside the bed and have put a cup in Juliet's hand. What has he done? A bottle of poison? A cup in Juliet's hand? There is no poison in this story. Fish don't have hands. So I clicked on the image to see what he'd done. This is what I got. So, what went wrong? Why did this misunderstanding happen? Now, back in 2008, I had absolutely no idea. But now I'm older, I'm wiser. I know what it was. First of all, there was something very important missing from the email, the one in which I gave instructions to Nicolas for the illustration. And maybe you know what it was. Do you? To explain, let's go back to the reason why we wanted an illustration in the first place. Do you remember? Do you remember my editor, my experienced editor? She wanted to be safe. She said that we had to include an illustration to make it absolutely clear to the reader that Romeo and Juliet are fish. And in the same way, I should have included with my email to Nicolas an illustration like this, a rough sketch. Communication is unpredictable. In a situation like this, there's just so much that can go wrong. This was a bad email. If I had to write that email again, it would be shorter, there'd be less information, I might not even mention Romeo and Juliet, and of course, I would include a rough sketch. This is what I might write. Hello Nicolas, thanks for your reply. I attach a rough sketch to show you what I need. You will see that it's our bedroom scene. There are 2 dead goldfish on the floor. They are surrounded by pieces of glass from their broken fishbowl. The fishbowl fell off the shelf and smashed. This was caused by vibrations from a passing train. The floor is wet. Also, can you include a window which has a view of a railway track as shown? There should be no people in the picture. Please let me know if you have any questions before you start. Thanks a lot, Jamie. So, what happened next? Well, despite the fact that I wasted a whole day of Nicolas's time, he was very good about it, very understanding. And after agreeing that yes, I should have included a rough sketch and that the next time we met I would have to pay for all the drinks and dinner, and after confirming that Romeo and Juliet are fish, there should be no people in the picture, no cups, no poison, this is the illustration that Nicolas created. But you know what? I've always preferred the first one. And I always promised Nicolas that it would never go to waste.